All right, let's get in here and finish this model. Nice, not bad. All right, let's take a break. Let's take a look at social media here real quick.
Completely new
Free AI tool that can turn your images into a 3D model in seconds.
and the result is so good.
You can sell them on.
So 3D AI generation just
You
level.
input an image of Spider-Man and you generate a 3D from it.
China just released an AI that turns
Okay, let's not do that. Let's look at my YouTube comments. Why do I even check my YouTube comments? Okay, let's look at my email. More AI stuff.
AI for a little longer than that. AI still the same. AI again. And give the AI.
There's lots of talk about artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
New artificial intelligence.
This is the future of the media ecosystem.
AI generated.
Firms aren't just hiring as much anymore. They're giving those jobs to AI.
AI is coming for your jobs.
And now accelerated by the role of artificial intelligence.
The AI revolution.
The AI revolution. Artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence arms race.
Embodiment of the way Silicon Valley has developed technology over the last decade, which is growth at all costs.
It may be we look back and see this as a kind of turning point. There's enormous uncertainty about what's going to happen next.
All right. Let's talk about AI and 3D art. Is it 3D art versus AI, or just in general art versus AI? Is this a doom and gloom post? Like, is this going to completely replace us as artists? Today, I don't think so. But tomorrow, let's talk about that. So as of right now, the way that I currently use AI, I use it for a lot of administrative tasks, helping with emails, grammar, and even some scripting. I've written a few Python scripts for some 3D tools that I featured on this channel. Now, where it's not that good at least as of today, it's not good at being very specific, right? Like, I use Unreal Engine and I want it to help with visual scripting. It cannot create visual script nodes, and sometimes it even hallucinates and completely makes up some programming nodes inside of the engine. So I can't use it there. From an art standpoint, what I found is that it's great for that idea generation, but it's not very good at being super specific. I want to talk about the exact workflow and exploration that I've gone through over the past few months with AI. Like I said at the beginning, I've tried to ignore and just kind of keep separate of AI, but it's nearly impossible. And honestly, in my honest opinion, if you do that, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because AI, if used correctly, can be an incredibly powerful tool. So let's talk about how I'm using it here. For example, I have like the cyberpunk exploration. I was coming up with an idea. I wanted to create a 3D model of this cyberpunk phone concept. So I said, create an analog phone with cyberpunk aesthetic. And so what did it do? ChatGPT created this analog phone with some cyberpunk lighting. And I said, no, that's not what I want. And then I found some cool concept art and I said, you know what? Use this as inspiration. Don't rip on this. Now, my goal isn't to take somebody else's art and recreate it. I just want to test the capabilities of what AI can do. I'm actually using my own concepts in some of the other tests here, so we'll take a look at that. But I did say use this as inspiration. And shout out to the artist, Mikhail Solovorov. Now, if we take a look here, once I told it use this as inspiration, it started to create this, okay? Or created this, I should say. Now, created this phone with some, again, it's really fixated on the cyberpunk lighting. And I says, great, create a front side view. And it does. And it creates it pretty good. Was it exactly perfect? Does it actually match from each side orthographic view? I didn't test that, but it gives me a good base. And so from here, I said, great, now create a front view of this. Now, here's what's interesting, is that once you start with image generation and you start to ask it, great, like you want it to take what you've just discussed from the last image it created And to take what it created and apply it to the next image, it isn't that good right now. Or I should say, at least the way that I was using ChatGPT, it wasn't doing exactly what I wanted. Now here's where it kind of freaks out, where I said, cool, thanks for the front view, now create a side view, and then it does this. Like, it completely hallucinates and creates something completely separate. Honestly, it's kind of cool and maybe something that I can kind of leverage off of, but it's not something that I want to use. And so I say, all right, what you can do is you can actually leverage ChatGPT to help you create prompts. So I said, take the image, and I specifically tell it, I give it context, is I'm a 3D artist testing mesh generation. Help me create the best prompt possible to test mesh generation. And so it said, great, here you go. And it gave me this prompt. And honestly, I looked at it, modified it slightly, and I thought it was great. And so I used that prompt, and then it generated this image. And I thought, fantastic. Now I can take this image and actually start testing it with all these AI mesh generation tools. For this video, like, I could make this like a 2-hour video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I tested 5 mesh generation tools, but know that there are way more. There are way more. So let's take a look at the first one. The first one is Trellis 3D. It's pretty good. It has single image, multi-image, and then it outputs the image here. And the way that this works is you simply drag the image into your mesh generation tool, and you can see then it will generate essentially a 360-degree rotation around. So it's essentially filling the gaps. And then from there, you can extract the model, and now, boom, you have a 3D model. Stable fast also works well. Like for this one, if I grab my image, let me head over here so you can kind of just see this in practice, right? I can just simply drag the image, boom. You can see that this image is here, and I say remeshing. I don't really care. I pretty much used default settings here, and then you can say remove the background. Some of it will have you remove the background, and then you can hit run, and then it runs and it creates a 3D model. Now this one, you know, Stable Fast 3D actually does a solid job. It does okay, but it's not quite exactly what I want. It really has a bad job with what it can't see. So, and then from here you can simply just download the model, and then it downloads. Now, what I ended up doing was bringing all of these different variants. Let me pop open Blender here. We have all these versions here. We have Unique 3D, Stable Fast, Meshy AI, Krea AI using the Hunyan 3D-2 model, and Trellis 3D. And of course, a human version of the phone, okay? Meaning that I took this Trellis 3D model and just created a production-ready version. We did not spend a long time on this. We just took this model, did a quick retopo of it, did a quick texturing inside of, there you are. Did some quick texturing inside of Substance Painter, and then brought it into Blender. Shout out to my buddy Rohan, who knocked this out in like a day, because I was talking to him about it. I said, man, I need to create a quick 3D model. And he's like, I'll do it. And he did it, and then sent it to me, fully modeled and textured. Now, you can see that we have all these different versions. Trellis again. You can see that the meshing is a little bit different between each one, but really what it's coming down to is that it looks very similar to photogrammetry scans. Now, I would not consider this at all as a production-ready asset. The wireframe is really, it's really messy. If we look at the UV editing, the UVs are also just as messy. You can't do anything with this. You can't animate it unless I go through the process of creating it as a mesh-ready asset. I'll quickly go over the other ones. Like here is Krea 3D. What's nice about this Krea 3D is like I can drag another image in here, and then I can tell it to go through, and you can see I already did it here. What I like, it's pretty visual and kind of shows you what it's creating, and then it generates the 3D model based off of the image. And some of them are really good. And what I need to explain actually is that some of these AI tools are wrappers for the actual mesh generation model, meaning Krea AI can actually use a bunch of different types of models that I listed inside of my Miro board, like Trellis, Stable Fast, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's using all of these different versions. And depending on whatever tier you get, like it can go through the process of giving you access to all of these different models. And you can see actually, which we'll take a peek at, like I have a bunch of different tests. And Krea AI works, it's pretty good. Honestly, it's pretty solid. Now, one of the other ones that works really well is Meshy AI. Now, Meshy AI, you can see, again, I can drag over the image, and what it does is it creates these different variants. And from here, you can choose the best one or all of them. Now, each one costs some credits. And then from here, you can generate a 3D model. Now, I get absolutely inundated with these AI companies really trying to have me promote their content. I am not being paid at all by any of these companies, despite their best efforts to pay me to promote their content. This is me as a 3D artist testing this and to see the impacts it has on the 3D art workflow. Now, if you'd like to support me, check out the Patreon because I'll give you access to the Miro board, these source assets, and I'll make it worth your while. The only thing I asked, and disclaimer is, I said, hey, if you want me to test it, send me some credits. I just want to test it. And they did. And Meshy sent me some credits that allow me to test the full features here. Now, I did not go in crazy amount of detail. I just kind of used a lot of the default settings. I know you can get really deep into this. I am not, I guess, what you can consider an AI artist, right? Like, I'm pretty good at creating prompts that I leverage the AI tools, but my goal here is really to test this workflow, right? With the workflow being starting here with text prompt, idea generation, concept inspiration, and then creating the final image. And then from there, creating a 3D version of the asset. And then once you're inside of Blender, the workflow could be then to take this asset, like if I actually put this right on top, this is pretty much a full retopo of this asset here, just made to be cleaned and ready to use however you want it. But if this was sitting off in the background, if this was like blurred with depth of field, fog, just a background asset that it doesn't need to be perfect, sure, then it can be as good as a messy photogrammetry asset, just as a filler asset. Are you tired of buying tutorial after tutorial, hoping the next one's going to unlock your 3D modeling skills? Well, I'm here to get you out of that loop. I'm Anwar Mohammed, and I'm currently working as a 3D artist and technical artist at Epic Games. Let's talk about how to create panels for your 3D models. The one thing that kind of excites me the most is letting the sub-D do the work. The distribution of edges is same throughout the entire model. And this is going to show you where you have these non-planar faces. This course isn't a one and done thing. I'm going to continue to evolve it with your feedback. So ready to finally take your skills to the next level? Enroll now, and I'll see you there. Let's stay within the cyberpunk realm, and you can see that I said, hey, create some variations of a cyberpunk revolver, create a prompt, help me create a prompt, and then I create this prompt and modify it, and it creates this revolver. And I just used Meshy AI because it didn't it was the best as far as storing all these assets, and I didn't want to have to bring them all into Blender. And then it creates this. And from a stylized standpoint, I was trying to push it to be more photorealistic, and it just couldn't. It just created this despite my efforts. But I thought this was fine. I mean, this was pretty good. Again, not really a usable asset, but it gives me something to work with. And I kind of like the fact that this got this cyberpunk aesthetic, this sci-fi aesthetic, and it's got kind of this wooden grip here, right? That was, whether it was intentional or not, something that came out pretty nice and pretty cool. Let's look at character exploration. Now, this is a concept that I had created from one of my former students from my Hammer Boy character modeling YouTube series. And I go through and I said, here's this original concept, help me create a prompt. It creates a prompt, but I said, now I want to change and update this concept to be more of a Pixar Disney aesthetic. This is the power of AI from an idea generation standpoint. And it creates this. And I said, okay, cool. I didn't really like the goggles being so small for his big head. And honestly, that was something from the original concept that I ended up changing. But for the most part, I said, you know what? I was like, make the goggles bigger, put it around his neck, and it couldn't do it, right? And so I said, well, just remove the goggles entirely. I will model it myself. I told myself I'll model it later. And then again, what's interesting is like, then I can say, oh, Disney Pixar, but I also wanted to create a version for Final Fantasy IX or a Final Fantasy aesthetic for my character as far as like fan art. I love Final Fantasy, right? So then I go back to Meshy and I can start to put this inside of here to generate these assets. You can see it does a pretty solid job for things that are not as organic, right? The boots, the gloves turned out really nice. I mean, the form is there. And then I look at the Final Fantasy IX one, same thing, looks really solid, right? And what I'm noticing is that these AI mesh generations have a much better time with organic and character models. Then I wanted to see how far I can fill in the blanks. I said, hey, I just modeled the AGL on Colt based off the Trigun Vasha Stampede gun. I said, here was this blueprint. Can you create a realistically rendered and lit revolver? And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty impressed. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But this is pretty solid. And then what I could do is I could bring this inside of the mesh generation tools. I gave it more reference and I gave it a really detailed prompt and it does solid, but what it's lacking is that the barrel is just a lot longer and it couldn't quite exactly get what I want. It starts to add a bunch of screws randomly all over the place, but boy, it really does a good job with this text. And then I said, let's see what a vehicle it can do with a vehicle. So I said, post-apocalyptic vehicle. Here's the body styles. Here's some concepts. Here's some inspiration. Use Datsun 240Z, Interceptor, Porsche 911 body styles. Create a prompt. It creates a prompt and it creates 2D art that looks great. And then I bring it in here and honestly, it's pretty damn good. Like, this is good. Again, not in the sense that I would use this as an asset, but what I can now do, or what this now gives me, is a 3D art reference that I can bring inside of Blender to recreate. Just like I did here, where I took this version of the Trellis 3D mesh generation and created this quick and dirty version of the Cyberpunk phone. Here's what's absolutely crazy and potentially absolutely terrifying, is that not too long ago, back in February, I just wanted to use it to help with thumbnail idea generation. And you can see that it doesn't really do that great. It didn't do that great back in February. Like, the text and everything wasn't that good. The topology was an absolute nightmare. And I was just saying, hey, I want to create a thumbnail. Help me come up with some ideas. Like you see, is it wrong? Conrect, right? Just all this stuff. However, in this like last April update, it actually is starting to have a good understanding of topology. Like I did the sub-D remesh. I literally just put the thumbnail I created and I said, hey, create a thumbnail variant of this and let me know. Do you know what an N-gon is? Do you know what quads are? Do you know what good topology is? Do you know what bad topology is? And I mean, this was really cool, but it made me take a second. It made me sit back in my chair and look at this and say, oh my God, like we are like steps away from having this actually, and I say this, we are steps away from having AI actually understand good topology. Because even though it's not perfect, you can see that it kind of blurs some things here. There's some triangles, and there's some N-gons, you know. But overall, when you go from this, for that Pixar character, when you go from this to this in a matter of months, it just seems like the logical next step is that mesh generation is going to actually know how to do clean topology. And I mean, is that a good thing? Is that what we want? For as long as I can remember, all anybody's ever wanted was a way to automate UVs, automate retopology, automate rigging and skinning. Why? So we as artists can focus on the actual artwork and not have to worry about the technical side of things. Because we all know what good topology is. Why do I have to keep constantly recreating it for every single model? If my form, proportions, and art is there, then just create a model that is ready to be rigged and animated. And I'm speaking from just this as a perspective. Am I saying that's exactly how it should be? I mean, I myself, I love retopo. I love UV mapping. I'm good at it, efficient at it.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But if AI comes in and all of a sudden it does it in a click, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for all the other artists? Now, here's the thing. The way that I view AI is that if I'm an artist and I'm good at modeling, UV mapping, rendering, texturing, lighting, all of that. So in all of these things, I'm an 8 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10. For rigging, skinning, dynamics, I'm a 4 or 5 out of 10. What AI is going to do is allow you as the artist that understands the full pipeline to be efficient and fast the entire pipeline. That's where I see AI. Don't see it as of today or tomorrow completely replacing the 3D artist. Because where it's not good at, it is not good at being specific. Maybe eventually it will be, but as of today and the foreseeable future, it's not. And it doesn't, like AI doesn't understand what good art is. That comes down to the artist's eye. It's just copying what's already done. Just like all of those Ghibli knockoffs. So the way you want to view AI is a tool, as an extension of you, as a way to fill in the gaps.
This is how AI is secretly being used in video game art. First, it's being used as a brainstorm aid. Non-artists like stakeholders or product teams will bust out AI to generate rough ideas. Color palettes, clothing shapes, hairstyles. Sometimes a creative lead dices different AI outputs, merging the best parts, like a hairstyle from one, armor design from another, into a single ultimate AI mishmash. This composite piece either becomes the main reference for the artist or the actual file that they have to paint over.
Now, is there always the risk of AI taking over the entire pipeline? Absolutely. But if it does that for 3D art, it's gonna do that for a lot more. And I'm not talking about just creative digital art. It's going to have a massive impact on the entire job industry. So to recap, AI is a fantastic tool. It is a great way for idea generation, to come up with different ideas, to create different variations of concepts, to explore things that you may not have been able to explore previously. And in literally a matter of minutes, to go from a text prompt to an image to a 3D model that you can rotate around and spin is absolutely incredible. It was not like that 6 months ago. And it's going to continue to accelerate whether you like it or not. So you as an artist need to make sure that you are at least understanding of these workflows. Like you have a good understanding of these workflows, because you may not be fully replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by artists that know these AI workflows, whether you like it or not. So again, this is just strictly my opinion, and I really want to hear yours. So drop it in the comments section. You guys have never hesitated to let me know what you really think. So I'm looking forward to it now. So with that, I'll see you in the next video.